Hi all! In this fifth video from my series on teaching the Tarot Tableau reading method, I'll be covering the second half of Step 3, your focal points. Part B is icing on the cake that gives you the opportunity to get any last details that might have been underexplored, or that are needed to help supplement the reading in some way. And Part C is where you make sure that you didn't miss anything previously. I actually won't spend too much time on that because it's pretty much just a sweep-up step. Although I encourage those using this spread to use it for general readings, querents may still have very specific circumstances or needs that you want to address, and that's where Part B of Step 3 can be most useful. And if you're answering specific questions as part of a specialized reading rather than a general one, then you may want to spend the majority of your time here, since you can use Part B of Step 3 to answer just about any question. You'll see some of that in the reading that I cover in this video, which helps a new querent named Q find some direction regarding her writing career, her husband's work and hobbies, and the household finances. Please note that I do incorporate some astrology into this particular reading. I'll be going over it in more detail in a later video in this series when I go over some of the advanced techniques and alternative considerations, so you may not see everything that you need to know about astrology just in this one video, but it is a part of it. But for now, let's just look at Q's spread. Jumping into Step 1, the arc of your journey, we see that the world is in the house of the Fool and the Emperor is in the house of the World. We also see the Fool in the house of Judgment, and the World is still in the house of the Fool. The cards of Step 1 suggest that Q is feeling the weight of the world on her shoulders, the responsibility of Saturn, which is tied to the World card, but there's a chance for Q to marshal past skills and experiences as she works to reimagine and redefine herself, her work, and her role in the family. In Step 2, the heart of the tableau, we have the Lovers in the house of Death, surrounded by the Sun and Chariot, along with the Empress and Death. In that combination, we can see that there's a transformation. That's not a surprise after seeing the Fool in the house of Judgment and the World in the house of the Fool. But the heart shows that this transformation needs other people. Q may want some change in significant relationships, whether that's an undisclosed issue with her husband or just acquiring a literary agent. But the relationships currently in place, husband and kids especially, will be crucial to Q's understanding of the transformation needed. To help with that, Q is encouraged to have more fun to bring in balance, blend joy and responsibility in the home. It's also possible that Q's children will help her with her work, either in redefining her writing path or in taking on literal work or tasks around the house. Also likely is that Q's writing and creative pursuits are going to form an important external part of her transformation. Looking to the Fool, which is to the right and below the heart, we can see that Q needs to look at what lies beneath the surface and what may have recently been overlooked. In Part A of Step 3, your focal points, we start with house card matches. In Q's case, there is one, Justice in the house of Justice. This suggests a need for balance, but because of Justice's associations with beautiful Libra and with commerce, it's different from the balance of joy and responsibility needed at home. This seems to be about balancing the art of writing with the commerce of selling a book. It's also an indication that a new legal relationship, such as a new agent, may be found in the realm of pre-existing partnerships. We then look to linking matches. In Q's case, every other card is involved in a linking match of 9 or fewer cards. We have the Magician in the house of the Tower and the Tower in the house of the Magician. Because of the Magician's associations with the individual and with writing through Mercury, as well as earlier aspects of the spread, this seems like a clear sign that Q needs to rethink how she positions herself as a writer. We also have the Hermit in the house of the Wheel of Fortune and the Wheel in the house of the Hermit. This suggests that external events are forcing a kind of natural leadership in Q and encouraging her to be a guide for her family during hardship. But since we're thinking of finances, there's the possibility that fortune may be found in Q's recognition of her inner darkness. Pulling that out may make for a successful book project. Then we look to the longer strings. There's a 3-card string from the Hanged Man through the Hierophant to the Empress. This suggests that Q needs to shift her ideas about the bureaucracy of her creative industry. Does she only write literary fiction? Maybe it's time to try genre fiction. Or if she only writes books for adults, then she might want to target the YA market. Q's 5-card string takes her from the Fool through the World, the Emperor, and the Star to Judgment. This progression and Q's concerns make me think that some household stressors might find relief if Q is able to help her husband find innovative ways to participate in his hobbies at home or remotely. The last string is 9 cards long. I wouldn't normally go past 7 for a reading like this one, but it involves the lovers at the heart of the tableau, so it seemed too important to ignore. That said, I don't have time to go over it with you in this video. So that was steps 1 and 2, and part A of step 3. Now we need to see what else needs our attention. I typically set the intention to look at certain areas of the tableau in advance, based on the querent's question or situation. Of course, because that's part of the querent's mindset going in, that energy usually transfers into major portions of the reading, so there's almost always very little work to be done on that front in part B. Of course, you can then use the spread's own results to help fine-tune what else the reading might need. And if something has been left out from the querent's initial concerns, something that they asked about, then you definitely want to look further into that part of the tableau. In Q's case, every card was used in part A, but we can look at some of them again. And we never got into Q's family finances, so we definitely want to provide her whatever guidance the spread has for that. Let's look back at Q's spread. In part B of step 3, we look at relevant cards or major houses to help get insight into the energies and areas that are most relevant to the querent. I planned to look at the Magician and Empress, as well as the House of Judgment and the Devil for Q's writing career. That's because the Magician is tied to Mercury, and thus writing, and the Empress is tied to creative products, such as a book. The House of Judgment can be a place of personal breakthroughs and vocations, and the House of the Devil is tied to astrological House 10 and career, thanks to its association with Capricorn. I had then also chosen the Lovers and the House of the Emperor for insight about Q's husband, for reasons that shouldn't require explanation. The card in the House of Judgment was the Fool, a focus of step 1, and the Lovers had an important message from the heart of the tableau. The Magician and Empress were both part of short house card linking matches, so all of those seem to have been covered in earlier steps. The House of the Devil and the House of the Emperor were both part of linking matches, but they were longer, so we might be able to get more out of them. With the Star in the House of the Emperor, the additional idea seems to encourage Q to stay optimistic about her husband's work and stressors. And with Temperance in the House of the Devil, we can see a need for balance, or perhaps more blending, of different components of Q's writing, such as the aforementioned balance of art and commerce seen in Justice in the House of Justice. What I didn't explore was the broader financial picture. Part of that could come through the Wheel of Fortune and its house, because of its association with Jupiter, and thus prosperity. But the wheel was part of a 2-card matching pair related to successful work product, so that's probably enough there. You don't want to overwork the reading. The other place where I can look is the House of the Hierophant, since that's tied to astrological House 2 through its association with Taurus. Astrological House 2 is the house of personal finances and property. Unfortunately, the card in the House of the Hierophant is the Hanged Man. While we did look at that card in relation to Q's writing career and a need for shifting, there's an additional message that we can take from it: painful stasis. It would be unethical to pretend that this placement is good news, but Q shouldn't despair. Instead, Q should take action to help shore up excess expenses while still continuing to look for opportunities to reshape her future. Maybe there's some budgeting that could help stretch things. That idea is mirrored by the Hermit in the House of the Wheel of Fortune. Things may change with personal repositioning, but if they don't, at least Q has some actions to help reduce the pain. And that's all we need to know for a basic reading right now. When completing these readings, you will want to make sure that you conduct Part C. That's where you do a final sweep to see what cards jump out at you, demanding your attention. But no additional interpretation was needed here because it was prepared in advance. Once you have the basic method under control, you may want to dive into the advanced techniques, or you may not. They're totally optional. What I will recommend is that you look through the alternative considerations discussed in my book. They may help give you new ways of working with the Tarot Tableau that really speak to you, whether that's because there's something I've covered in the book or something that you felt was missing and you've developed a way to read it for yourself. We'll be looking at some of those advanced techniques and alternative considerations in the second half of this series, but this first half is plenty to get you started and practicing, and I really do hope that you practice. Look for the next half of the series to start back up in about a month or so. See you then!